How does a father react when he finds his daughter sleeping in a van with her child right after he paid for her safe home? Why did her husband's family suddenly say she had no claim, like she was a guest who overstayed? And how did they learn, too late, that I handle problems through papers, timelines, and systems? My name is Owen. I am 58 years old. I live alone in a small house outside the city. I run a small estimating business. It is quiet work. I read plans, I count materials, I keep schedules. People sometimes think I am slow because I speak softly. I am not slow. I just do not waste words. That morning I went to the Union train station to drop off a package for a client. It was cold and gray. The station was loud in a tired way. Wheels rolled over tile. Someone dragged a suitcase that clicked on every crack. I walked through the main hall and looked for the courier desk. I saw a van near the far side of the parking lot. At first it did not register. Then I saw a small hand on the inside of a fogged window. I stopped like my feet did not belong to me for a second. I walked closer. I saw my daughter Lena inside. She was curled on the back seat with a blanket pulled up to her shoulders. My grandson Milo was beside her, asleep with his cheek against a stuffed animal. The van looked packed, like someone had tried to fold a life into trash bags. I tapped the glass lightly. Lena sat up fast, like she had not been sleeping, only pretending. Her eyes were red. Her hair was tied in a loose knot. I opened the door and asked her what she was doing here. I asked her why she was in a van with Milo. I asked her where the home was that I arranged for her. She tried to answer, but her voice broke. She told me she did not know what to say anymore. She said Mark's family told her she had no claim and no rights. She said they acted like she was a visitor who stayed too long. She said they told her to leave and to take only what she could carry. She said the rest would be handled. I looked at Milo first. He was breathing slow and even. I checked his hands. They were warm. I checked the bag on the floor for snacks and water. It was the kind of check I did when she was little and got sick. My body remembered how to protect before my mind could fully catch up. Lena kept talking in short pieces. She said it happened fast. She said she tried to reason with them. She said Vera told her it was better this way, like it was advice. She said Glenn stood behind Vera and watched. She said Tara recorded parts on her phone and laughed like it was a show. Lena said Mark did not stop them. She said he told her she was making things harder than they needed to be. I did not raise my voice. I asked Lena if she was hurt. She said she was not hurt, only exhausted and embarrassed. I told her there was nothing to be embarrassed about. I told her she and Milo were coming with me right now. I told her to leave everything and come with me. I said we would not argue in a parking lot. I said we would get warm first. She hesitated for a second, then nodded. She moved carefully so she would not wake Milo. I lifted him and held him close. His weight was small, but it grounded me. Lena gathered the diaper bag, a purse, and 2 trash bags of clothes. That was all. She looked at the rest of the van like she was counting losses. We walked to my truck. My hands stayed steady on the wheel, but my chest felt tight. It was not rage the way people imagine it. It was more like a clean, sharp focus. The kind I get when a job goes wrong and everyone starts guessing. Guessing does not fix anything. Facts fix things. Halfway to my house, Lena's phone rang. She looked at the screen and flinched. She told me it was Mark. I told her she did not have to answer. She answered anyway, and she put it on speaker without thinking. Mark's voice was calm and light, like this was a small problem. He said Lena was being dramatic. He said his mother was only trying to keep order. He said Lena could come back when she was ready to follow the family rules. He said Milo would be fine either way. I kept my eyes on the road. I told Mark I understood what he was saying. I told him Lena and Milo were safe with me. I told him we would speak later, when everyone was ready to be respectful. Mark said I should stay out of it. He said this was between husband and wife. I told him I was her father and Milo's grandfather, and that made it my business. Then I ended the call. Lena stared at her phone like it was something dangerous. She said she felt like she had failed. She said she thought being quiet would keep peace. She said she kept trying to be the easy one. I told her peace, that depends on one person. Shrinking is not real peace. I told her she did not fail. I told her she was tired and surrounded by people who liked control more than family. When we got to my house, I carried Milo inside. The living room was plain. I do not decorate much. I put Milo on the couch with a clean blanket. Lena stood in the doorway like she did not know if she was allowed to enter. I told her this was her home too, for as long as she needed. I made tea. I warmed soup. I put a small nightlight in the hallway like I used to when she was a child. When Milo woke up, he rubbed his eyes and asked where his bed was. He said he wanted his toys. Lena tried to smile and told him we were visiting Grandpa. Milo asked when they would go back to the other home. Lena looked at me like she could not breathe. I told Milo we would make a good place for him here tonight. I told him he could pick a blanket and a pillow like a fort. He liked that idea and walked around the room, touching everything like he was mapping safety. Later, Lena sat at my kitchen table. The light above the table is bright and honest. It does not flatter anyone. It shows what is there. Lena told me the story again, slower. She said Vera kept calling her ungrateful. She said Tara told her she was lucky anyone tolerated her. She said Glenn said nothing, which hurt more than words. She said Mark blamed her for upsetting his family. While she talked, I noticed how she kept checking her phone. I asked her what she was expecting. She told me the family group chat was active. She said they were already telling people she left on her own. She said they were saying she was unstable. She said Tara was posting vague comments to pull attention, the kind that invites questions without giving details. A message popped up while she held the phone in both hands. Lena's shoulders dropped as she read it. She told me it said the locks were changed. She told me it said her things were handled and would be returned later if she behaved. She told me it said Milo's routine would be decided by Mark's family now. I reached across the table and turned the phone face down. I told Lena to breathe. I told her she did not have to answer anyone tonight. I told her we would sleep first. I told her I would handle things properly through the systems they respect. Then I got up, opened my home office cabinet, and pulled out a clean folder. I did not show it to her. I only placed it on the counter and set a pen beside it, like a quiet promise. After Lena went to bed, I did not sleep much. I sat at the kitchen table with the same quiet feeling I get before a hard job. Not panic, not noise, just a steady sense that something had to be corrected. In the morning, Lena looked a little better after a shower, but her eyes stayed careful. Milo ate cereal and asked for a cartoon. I kept my voice normal. I told Lena we could talk in small pieces. I told her I did not need a perfect story. I needed the order of events. While Milo watched the screen, Lena told me how things started. She met Mark 4 years ago. She said he was charming and confident. He planned dates. He brought flowers. He talked about family like it was a warm place. When Lena got pregnant, he told her they would build a stable life fast. He said his parents would help. Lena wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that too. When they announced the pregnancy, Vera took charge of everything. Lena said Vera acted like she was managing a project. Vera chose the doctor. Vera chose the baby items. Vera chose what Lena should eat. It was framed as care, but it came with rules. Lena said Mark told her it was easier to let his mother handle things. I remember the first time I felt pushed aside. It was at a dinner at Vera and Glenn's house. The table was full. The room was warm. Everyone talked over everyone. I tried to ask simple questions about plans and work. Vera answered for Lena. Mark smiled and nodded like that was normal. Tara kept checking her phone and making comments for laughs. I stayed polite. I told myself it was just excitement. Then the wedding planning started. Lena wanted something small. Mark wanted something that looked impressive. Vera wanted control. I offered to cover a few costs so Lena would not stress. I set a clear budget. I thought that would keep it clean. It did not. Every time money came up, Vera spoke like she was granting permission. She talked about what their family deserved. She used the word tradition when she wanted a decision to sound final. When I asked for details, she acted like I was rude for asking. Mark told me not to worry. He said they had it handled. Then a week later, Lena would call me quietly and say they needed help with a deposit or an invoice. On the wedding day, I sat in the second row. I was not part of the main photos. Vera arranged the order like a manager. When I tried to step in for one picture with Lena, Tara guided people around me like I was furniture. I did not make a scene. I wanted Lena to have a smooth day. I told myself it was not important. I see now it was a pattern. After the wedding, Mark talked about their first home. He said renting was wasting money. He said his family knew real estate. He said it would be smart to move fast. Lena wanted a safe place for the baby, and she did not want to argue. I offered to help them get started, but I wanted it done properly. I told them I would not hand over money without a clear plan. Vera invited me to a meeting at their house. She set it up like a formal talk. Papers were on the table. Coffee was poured. Vera explained things in a fast voice, like she was doing me a favor. She said they had a method. She said I could either support it or slow it down. Mark sat quiet and let her speak. I asked what exactly they were buying and whose name would be on it. Vera said titles were just details. She said families did not need to treat each other like strangers. Tara laughed and said I was old-fashioned. Mark said I should trust them. Lena looked at me with nervous eyes and said she did not want conflict. I agreed to help because Lena was pregnant, and I did not want to leave her stuck. I sent money through normal channels. I kept confirmations like I always do. It is habit. I do it for every job and every payment. I did not know then how important that habit would become. When Milo was born, I tried to visit in a normal way. At first it was fine. Then visits became controlled. Vera set times. Glenn would watch the clock. Tara would take pictures and post them like it was her event. If I asked to hold Milo longer, Vera would say the baby needed routine and hand him to Mark's side of the family. Lena would look down and say nothing. Over time, Lena changed. She used to talk freely. She started speaking in careful phrases. She would say Mark was under stress. She would say Vera meant well. She would say it was better to keep peace. When I suggested counseling or clearer boundaries, Mark said I was being dramatic. He said Lena did not need outside voices. He said they were building their own family now. There were small humiliations that added up. At a restaurant, a server asked if I was the grandfather. Mark smiled like it was funny. Tara made a comment about me being quiet and said Lena needed a stronger man around her. Vera told Tara to stop, but her tone sounded pleased, not firm. I paid the bill anyway because Lena looked tired and Milo was fussy, and I did not want a scene. Another time, at a family gathering, Mark told a story about how I worked alone and how small my business was. He made it sound like I was barely holding on. People laughed politely. I nodded and kept eating. I did not correct him. I thought it was better to stay calm and not fight for attention. I also saw how they treated Lena when she tried to speak. If she disagreed, Vera would say Lena was emotional. If Lena asked for time, Mark would say she was overthinking. If Lena wanted to visit me, Tara would say it was unnecessary. It was always framed as concern, but it always ended with Lena doing what they wanted. One night, a few months ago, Lena called me late. She told me there was tension at home. She said Mark's family talked about the house like it belonged to them. She said she felt like she was living in someone else's life. I told her she could come to my place any time. She said Mark would be angry if she did. She said he told her she had to choose whose side she was on. That was when I understood the disrespect was not random. It was organized. It was a system. They made Lena feel small. Then they acted like her fear was proof she could not be trusted. They made me feel distant. Then they acted like my distance meant I did not matter. Even then, I still believed it could be fixed with calm talks. I still believed Mark would step up if he saw the harm. But after the station, after seeing Lena and Milo in that van, I stopped believing in talks. I started believing in records, clear facts, and the kind of steps that do not depend on anyone's mood. The next 2 days felt like walking through thick fog, but I kept doing small things that made the fog thinner. I cooked simple meals. I washed Milo's clothes. I set up a small bed for him in the spare room. I found an old toy box in my garage and cleaned it. Lena helped when she could, but she moved like someone waiting for a door to slam. On the second morning, Lena tried to go back to the house to get Milo's stroller and a few important papers. She said she wanted to do it quietly, early, before anyone noticed. I told her I would drive her, but I would not go inside. I said I did not want shouting. I wanted facts. We parked a block away. Lena walked up alone. She came back in 5 minutes with nothing in her hands. Her face looked blank, like she had turned off her feelings to survive. She told me the key did not work. She told me the door had a new lock. She said she knocked and could hear movement inside, but nobody opened. She said she saw Milo's stroller through a window, like it was being kept on purpose. Then Mark called. Lena answered with her phone shaking. Mark spoke in a calm, flat tone. He told her she could not just show up. He said she was not welcome until she agreed to their rules. He said his mother decided what was best for the family. He said Lena was confusing Milo with all this, and he said he would take control if she did not calm down. Lena ended the call and started to cry in the car. She told me she felt trapped. She told me Mark used to be kind when they were alone. She said he changed when his family watched him. She said he started performing for them, like he needed their approval more than he needed peace in his own home. I drove back without speaking much. I did not want to fill the car with advice. Lena did not need lectures. She needed a stable floor under her feet. That afternoon, I took Milo to pick up a few items from daycare that were still in his cubby. Lena did not want to go because she was afraid of running into someone from Mark's family. I went alone. The daycare worker handed me Milo's spare clothes and a small art paper with paint handprints. She asked if everything was okay. I told her we were staying with me for a while. Her face changed, and she said she had seen Mark's mother come in the day before, asking questions about Milo's schedule and who was allowed to pick him up. That was the first time I understood the line was not only about a house. It was about control. They were trying to build a story where Lena was unreliable, and they were the stable side. If they controlled the story, they could control everything else. On the drive home, Milo asked when he would see his toys again. He asked if he did something wrong. He asked why his mother looked sad. I told him he did nothing wrong. I told him grown-ups sometimes make bad choices when they want to win. I told him he was safe with us. That night, Lena finally told me about the paperwork she signed. She said Vera called it family planning. She said it was presented like a normal step, like a formality. She said Mark sat beside her and told her it was fine. Lena said she did not fully read it because she felt rushed and tired, and because everyone acted like it was harmless. I did not ask her to blame herself. I told her pressure is a tool people use when they want something you might not give freely. I told her it was not her fault for wanting peace. I opened my home office cabinet and took out a notebook. I told Lena we were going to build a timeline. I asked for dates, not feelings. I asked when she moved in. I asked when Milo was born. I asked when the first talk about rules started. I asked when Vera began speaking as if Lena was a guest. Lena answered slowly, sometimes stopping to think. When she did not know a date, I asked what month, what season, what was happening around it. I wrote everything down in plain words. Then I asked Lena for her phone. I told her I would not send messages. I told her I only wanted to preserve what was already there. I went through the group chat and saved the key lines. I took screenshots of the lock change message. I saved the messages where they called Lena unstable. I saved the parts where they discussed Milo's schedule like Lena was not his mother. I also saved Mark's short messages because his tone mattered. He wrote like he was giving orders. I made copies and backed them up in more than one place. I did the same with photos Lena had from the past week. I asked her if she had any photo from the station. She did. It was a picture Tara had posted with a vague caption. It showed the station sign in the background. It was meant to shame, but it also proved where Lena had been and when. The next morning, I spoke to my neighbor, Mrs. Klein. She knows a lot because she watches the street like it is her job. I asked her if she could help by picking up Milo sometimes if Lena had an appointment. She said yes, and then she asked why Lena was staying with me. I told her the short truth. Mrs. Klein frowned and said she had seen a moving truck near Lena's neighborhood 2 nights ago. She said she saw boxes being carried out while it was still dark. She said she also saw Vera's car parked close by. She said it looked planned. That mattered, not as gossip, as a detail in a larger picture. I called an old friend who works in housing law. I did not tell her a dramatic story. I gave her the timeline points and the behavior points. I told her there was a lock change, a forced removal, and pressure around paperwork. She told me to stay calm and keep gathering objective facts. She told me not to warn the other side. She told me to keep everything organized and consistent. After that call, I sat in my garage office with the folder open. I labeled sections with simple names, dates, messages, payments, witness notes. I was not angry in the loud way people expect. I was clear. Lena came in and asked what I was doing. I told her I was making sure nobody could erase her again. I told her we would handle this properly, with records and correct steps. Then I wrote one more line in my notebook, because it was the moment everything changed for me. I wrote that they had moved from disrespect to control, and I would not allow it to continue. The next week became a routine of quiet steps. I did not chase Mark's family with calls. I did not try to win an argument in a group chat. I focused on things that do not change when people change their tone. I started with the basics. I helped Lena set up a new bank account for her daily needs. Nothing dramatic, just a clean place for her money to land. I told her to keep it simple and separate. I told her to write down every expense for Milo: diapers, food, daycare, small items. Those numbers matter later, even when people pretend they do not. I went to the bank branch in person. I chose a quiet morning when the lobby was almost empty. I brought my own notes, not a speech. I asked for confirmations of the transfers I made during the home process. I asked for dates and reference numbers. I did not demand anything. I spoke like a man doing normal business. The banker gave me what was allowed and told me what would take more time. I thanked him and left. From there, I went to the county records counter. It is not a fancy place. It smells like paper and old carpet. People stand in line with their own problems, and nobody cares about your feelings. I like that. I asked for property history information tied to the address. The clerk told me what forms I needed to request copies. I filled them out carefully. I did not argue. I did not explain family drama. I only asked for what the public record can confirm. On the drive home, Lena called me and said Mark's mother had shown up at daycare again. Lena said Vera spoke to the staff like she was in charge. Lena said she tried to tell Vera to stop, but Vera acted calm and said she was only helping. Lena said Tara was outside in the car, pointing a phone toward the door. Lena said she felt like she was being watched. I told Lena not to confront them at daycare. I told her daycare should stay quiet and safe for Milo. I told her we would handle it the right way, not by trading words in a parking lot. That afternoon, I met my attorney friend, Ms. Rowan. I did not go in with a big story. I walked in with a folder and a notebook. I told her the order of events. I told her there was a lock change, pressure, and a clear attempt to push Lena out. I told her there was also a pattern of control around Milo. Ms. Rowan listened without reacting. She asked short questions. Who was present? What was said? What messages exist? When the lock was changed? When Lena tried to return? She told me to keep doing what I was doing. She told me to preserve everything and avoid direct conflict. She told me calm actions create clean outcomes. I sat in her hallway for a moment afterward. Other people walked past me with their own folders. It reminded me that this is not personal in the way Vera wanted it to be. This is a process. Processes have steps. Steps have consequences. Mark's family, on the other hand, acted like none of this mattered. Tara posted more vague comments online. Lena saw people reacting with sympathy toward Mark's family because they were louder and more polished. Vera sent messages to Lena through Mark, saying Lena could return if she agreed to certain rules. Mark wrote that Lena was making him look bad. He wrote that Lena should think about Milo and stop creating trouble. Lena showed me the messages. I told her to stop replying. I told her every reply gives them a chance to twist her words. I told her silence can be strength when you are building facts. We also started building a stable daily pattern. Milo woke up, ate breakfast, and went to daycare. Lena took short walks and tried to breathe. At night, she sat with me at the kitchen table and wrote down what she remembered. Not long paragraphs, just bullet points. What happened? What day? Who said what? She struggled at first because she felt guilty, like writing it down made it real. I told her it was real whether we wrote it down or not. Writing it down only stops others from rewriting it. One evening, Milo asked if his father was coming to see him. Lena froze. She looked at me, and her face showed fear, not anger. I told Milo his father loved him, but grown-ups sometimes make choices that cause distance. I told Milo we would keep his days steady. Milo accepted that answer the way children do. Then he asked if he could have pancakes on Saturday. Lena almost smiled at that. A few days later, I drove past the church community room where Mark's family gathers. I did not go in. I parked across the street and watched through the window for a minute. I saw Vera at the front of the room, speaking with her hands like she was giving a lesson. I saw people nodding. I saw Tara moving around with her phone. I saw Mark standing near the side, looking serious, like he was practicing a role. It was clear they were building a story together, one they could repeat to anyone who asked. That night, Lena received a message from a cousin. The cousin said there was talk that Lena had run off and left Milo's father behind. The cousin asked if Lena was okay, but the question felt loaded. Lena's hands shook again. She said she felt like she was being erased in real time. I told her we cannot control gossip. We can only control reality. I told her reality is stronger when it is organized. Later that week, a calendar invite appeared on my phone from an unknown email. It was for a family celebration at an upscale venue across town. It listed a private room, a start time, and a dress suggestion. It looked like one of Vera's plans. It was sent to several people, including Lena. The message said it would be good for everyone to come together and move forward. Lena stared at it and asked what it meant. I told her it meant they wanted a stage. I told her people who like control also like an audience. I told her not to reply. I printed the invite and placed it in my folder without comment. Then I sat in my garage office and updated my timeline. New entries, new dates, new names. Each line was calm and plain. Mark's family kept acting confident. Mark sent one more message saying Lena should come alone if she wanted to talk, and that she should not bring me. I read it and said nothing. I did not need their permission to be a father. By the end of that week, Lena's breathing sounded more normal. Milo laughed more. My house still felt small, but it felt steady. And in the background, without noise, I kept moving through the systems that do not care who tells the better story. The week of the event felt strange because my house was calm, while everything outside was loud. Lena stopped checking her phone every minute, but she still flinched when it buzzed. Milo settled into our routine. He knew where his shoes were. He knew which cup was his. Small things like that matter when life feels unstable. I kept working, but I reduced my schedule. I told my clients I had a family situation and would be slower for a short time. Most of them were understanding. A few tried to push. I did not argue. I simply held my boundary. I have learned that respectful people accept a clear answer. Every evening, after Milo went to sleep, I sat with Lena at the kitchen table. We did not talk about feelings first. We talked about facts. I asked her what messages arrived that day. I asked if anyone came near daycare. I asked if Mark called. Lena answered in short sentences. If she started blaming herself, I brought her back to the timeline. I told her shame makes people quiet, and quiet makes it easier for others to control the story. Ms. Rowan checked in with me by phone. She did not speak like someone chasing drama. She spoke like someone building a clean case. She reminded me to keep everything steady and consistent. She told me not to contact Vera directly. She told me not to threaten. She told me not to bargain. She said people like Vera understand only two things: control and consequences. She said consequences come from procedure, not from raised voices. Lena asked me what would happen next. I told her I would handle things properly. I told her it would not be fast like a shouting match. It would be correct like a signed form. I did not show her anything on paper. I only told her that steps were being prepared and that she would not be alone when the time came. I also took care of practical things. I helped Lena update her address with daycare for emergency contact purposes. I asked the daycare to keep pickup simple and strict. I did not accuse anyone. I only said we needed clear rules because family members were not in agreement. The daycare worker nodded like she understood more than she could say. On Thursday, Mrs. Klein came over with a small bag of children's books that her grandson had outgrown. She handed them to Milo like she was giving him treasure. Milo hugged her and told her he liked pancakes. Mrs. Klein looked at Lena and told her she was welcome here. Lena cried quietly and said thank you. I stood near the sink and let that moment happen. Kindness is a strong counterweight to control. Mark kept sending short messages through the week. He wrote that Lena was embarrassing him. He wrote that Lena was turning people against him. He wrote that Lena should come to the event and stop making the family look divided. He wrote that the event would be a chance to reset if Lena followed the correct attitude. Vera sent messages too, but always in a soft tone that tried to sound reasonable. She wrote that Lena was always welcome if she agreed to family standards. She wrote that Milo needed stability and that Lena was not providing it. She wrote that I was confusing Lena by getting involved. She wrote that I should let Mark lead. Tara posted more online comments that were vague but pointed. Lena showed me one where Tara implied Lena was ungrateful and dramatic. The comments under it were filled with people guessing. Lena looked sick reading it. I told her not to reply and not to scroll. I told her public noise is not proof. I told her truth is not decided by a comment section. 2 nights before the event, Lena asked if she should go at all. She said she feared being cornered. She said she feared being recorded. She said she feared people would smile at her face and then twist her words later. I told her those fears were reasonable. I told her we would not walk in unprepared. I told her we would walk in with support and structure. I helped Lena choose simple clothes. Nothing flashy, nothing apologetic, clean and calm. I also chose my own clothes like I was going to a meeting with a client. Dark pants, plain shirt, clean shoes. I trimmed my beard. I made sure my truck was clean. When people rely on image, I do not compete with them. I simply remove easy targets. The day before the event, Ms. Rowan met me briefly again. She told me timing matters. She told me not to arrive late and walk into the middle of their story. She told me to arrive early and be present from the beginning. She told me to keep my voice low, my words simple, and my face neutral. She said the goal was not to win an argument. The goal was to end the argument by moving it into the correct channels. That night, I did laundry and packed a small bag for Milo. Snacks, wipes, a spare shirt, a small toy. Milo asked where we were going. I told him we were going to a place with many people, and he needed to stay close. He asked if there would be cake. I told him maybe. He smiled like that was enough information. In the morning, Lena looked pale but steady. She drank tea and ate a little toast. I told her we could leave at any time if she felt overwhelmed. I told her she did not need to prove strength by staying in a bad room. She nodded and said she understood. We drove to the venue in silence for most of the way. The city looked normal. People walked dogs. People carried coffee. It bothered me that the world stayed calm while my daughter's life had been turned upside down. Then I reminded myself that calm is not the same as safe. Safety is built. We arrived early, as planned. I parked in a quiet spot and turned off the engine. Lena took a long breath. Milo hummed to himself and kicked his feet gently in his seat. I looked at the building and the clean glass doors. I thought about how much Vera liked stages. I thought about how much Tara liked attention. I thought about Mark hiding behind both of them. Then I opened my door and stepped out. I walked around to help Lena and Milo. I held Milo's hand. We walked toward the entrance at a steady pace, not rushing and not hesitating. Inside, staff moved chairs and arranged tables. Music played softly in the background. The room looked ready for a celebration, but I did not come for celebration. I came for a correct ending to a false story. We entered the venue early before most guests arrived. The private room looked perfect on purpose. White tablecloths, soft music, tall glasses, and a photo backdrop that made everyone look important. Milo held my hand and stared at the lights, like they were part of a parade. Lena kept her shoulders back, but I could see she was bracing. Ms. Rowan arrived 2 minutes after us. She did not look like she came to argue. She looked like she came to complete a task. She greeted the venue manager, Mr. Patel, with a calm nod and asked for a short word in a side hallway. I stayed with Lena and Milo near the entrance, away from the center of the room. Mark's family arrived in a wave. Vera walked first, smiling at people like she was hosting the whole building. Glenn followed, quiet and watchful. Tara moved with her phone already raised, framing the room and people like she was collecting proof of her own importance. Mark came last. He looked past Lena at first, as if she was not supposed to be there. Then his eyes landed on Milo, and his face tightened. Vera approached us with a soft expression that did not match her actions from the week before. She spoke as if nothing serious had happened. She acted like this was a simple misunderstanding that could be cleaned up with polite words. Lena stayed still and did not step forward. Milo leaned closer to me. Ms. Rowan returned from the hallway and stood beside me, close enough that the message was clear. Mr. Patel followed a few steps behind, carrying the careful posture of someone who has seen too many family events go wrong. Vera tried to keep control of the moment. She spoke toward Lena and then toward the small group gathering around, shaping the story like she was shaping dough. Tara angled her phone to capture Lena's face. Mark stood slightly behind Vera, letting her lead, the way he always did when things got uncomfortable. Ms. Rowan asked for a quiet minute for the adults. She said this was not a scene for a child. Mr. Patel agreed and offered a small side lounge near the hallway, with water and chairs. I took Milo there with a staff member while Lena stayed with Ms. Rowan. Milo asked where the cake was. I told him we would see. From the lounge, I could still see the doorway into the private room. I could not hear every word, but I could see the shift in body language. Ms. Rowan held a slim folder. She opened it in front of Vera and Mark, not like a threat, but like a routine part of business. Vera's smile stayed on her face for 2 seconds too long. Then it faded when she recognized the format and the weight of it. Ms. Rowan spoke in short sentences. She said the home situation was not a family vote. She said it was governed by recorded facts. She said the lock change and removal of access had a legal name and a clear process for correction. She said Lena's personal belongings and Milo's belongings were not bargaining tools. She said a formal notice was being served today in front of witnesses and that the next steps were already scheduled if compliance did not happen. Mark tried to respond with the same calm tone he used on the phone. He spoke like he was the reasonable one, and Lena was overreacting. Ms. Rowan did not react to his tone. She turned one page and pointed to a section. She spoke again and kept it simple. She said the property records did not match the story Vera had been telling. She said the title and the recorded occupancy terms were clear. She said Lena was not a guest to be removed when someone felt offended. Vera's eyes moved quickly as she read. She looked up once, then back down. Glenn leaned in to see, and his face changed too. Tara's phone stayed up at first, but her hand shook slightly when she realized this was not a moment she could edit into a victory. Lena spoke only once. She said she wanted safe access to Milo's things and her own things. She said she wanted a predictable schedule for Milo that did not change because someone felt angry. She said she wanted communication to go through proper channels, not through pressure and group messages. Her voice was steady. It sounded like a person returning to herself. Ms. Rowan then turned slightly toward Mr. Patel and explained, in calm professional terms, that this event was being used as a stage to pressure a vulnerable person. She said the venue had liability concerns when an invited guest was being cornered and recorded without consent in a private booking. Mr. Patel listened with his brows pulled tight, not emotional, just practical. He looked at Vera and asked if everything was truly under control. Vera tried to answer quickly. Mr. Patel asked her to pause and speak with him outside the room. That moment changed the air. When a neutral person steps in, the social fog disappears. Guests started looking away, suddenly busy with their drinks. A few people stopped smiling. The room's energy turned from celebration to caution. Ms. Rowan handed Mark a second document and explained what it was. She said it concerned parenting arrangements and contact boundaries, and it was being filed properly. She said Mark was free to respond through counsel, not through family pressure. Mark's mouth opened like he wanted to argue, but he did not. His eyes went to the paper and stayed there. Vera returned from the hallway with Mr. Patel. Her face looked tight, like she was holding back something sharp. Mr. Patel addressed the room in a polite, firm voice. He said they needed to pause the gathering until a private matter was resolved. He said filming in the private room was not allowed under their policy and asked Tara to put her phone away. Tara hesitated, then lowered it when she saw Mr. Patel's expression did not change. I walked back in from the lounge with Milo. I did not carry a folder. I did not raise my voice. I simply stood near Lena, with my hand resting lightly on Milo's shoulder. Mark looked at me then, really looked at me, and I could see he understood something new. He understood that the week of loud messages and soft threats did not move me at all. He understood I had not been trying to win a social fight. I had been building a clean path through systems that do not care who speaks louder. Ms. Rowan said the next steps would begin immediately after the event, including a supervised return of belongings and a corrected access plan. She said any future contact would be documented and routed correctly. She said the lock issue would be addressed in a lawful way, with proper notice already served. Mr. Patel asked Vera to step outside again, this time without discussion. Vera stood still for a second, then moved, and Glenn followed her. Mark stayed behind, holding papers that made his role smaller than he thought it was. Tara kept her phone down, staring at the floor like she had suddenly lost interest in recording. Lena took Milo's hand. Milo squeezed her fingers and asked if they could go